All right, we are live, and today we're looking into Alana Levin. She's investing in variant fund. I was first introduced to variant fund with my friend and my previous company or startup that I was working at, and I came across her Twitter. I think she has pretty interesting things to say, so let's get into this. Invest in things that make the world more productive, that makes the world more productive. Okay, perfect. And let's go into her writings now. Back of the envelope, ideas on crypto. Be part of a community of people who share your interests to find more about the company. Okay. All right. What's happening at Reddit? Reflections on the state of crypto. What's happening at Robinhood? Will it increase productivity? A lens for investing. Let's see. I look at most investments with a lens of productivity. If the company succeeds in its mission, will it meaningfully increase productivity in the world? This tends to be an excellent litmus test for screening whether a business can grow really big, and notably, it works well in both private and public markets. What is productivity? Core to the question is the word productivity, productivity or productivity, productivity. I'm using the economic meaning of the word, where productivity refers to how much output can be produced with a given set of inputs. There are two ways to grow productivity: grow output while holding the number of inputs constant, or grow output at a faster rate than one increases inputs. Reduce the number of inputs while maintaining the same level of output. Okay, both really mean the same thing. Each input generates more output, but the framing slightly changes the characteristic one might look for. The former is more oriented toward new market growth, whereas the latter puts the focus on cost declines, right? So either you are saving time or saving money or making money, right? So first one is making money, second one is saving time. Applying this framing. In practice, how does a company actually improve productivity? Keeping with the framing above, there are two heuristics. For growing a market, the company or the technology it realizes expands access to the good or service. Expands access to the good or service, right? So making things cheaper, making things more accessible. For reducing costs, the company has identified a cost center within an existing market and has found a way to improve upon it via less expensive substitutes, better technology, etc. These considerations don't exist in isolation. Sometimes cost reductions make the market available to new participants who were previously priced out. Similarly, market growth can incentivize R&D into new technologies or techniques that in turn help drive down costs. Companies that build such flywheels often enjoy compounding competitive advantages. There are many scenarios where this framework isn't quite as cut and dry as it may sound. Answers often differ based on a function of one's time horizon. I have a quick note that I want to send. Okay, perfect. There are many scenarios where this framework isn't quite as cut and dry as it may sound. Answers often differ based on a function of one's time horizon. Take relaunchable rocket companies. It took a lot of inputs, and a long time. A lot of inputs, a long time to generate any output. But if we get reusable rockets and can start to do things like space manufacturing, the size of the resulting market may be huge. Successful examples are almost always easier to rationalize in hindsight. That's why I find the framing, if it works, far more helpful than will it work, at least for earlier stage venture style investments. Later stage public markets addendum. There are a couple variations of this question applicable in later stage, more mature markets. The initial question, will this meaningfully increase productivity, points towards growth, but there are some companies that have already achieved this status. So the better question to ask might be, if the company disappeared, would productivity fall? This is one of those questions where it's better to ask. I think Charlie Munger has this idea that invert, always invert, which is, instead of asking how to be successful, ask about what would cause failure and make sure you don't do those things. And similarly, I think even in product research, it's more like, if you really want to see if your product sticks and if your product has any impact, go to your users and be like, how unhappy would you be if my product didn't exist? So this question suggests not only that the business provides a valuable good or service, validation that it has indeed achieved productive status, but also that its market position is likely well solidified. Early stage companies tend to be hyper oriented around growth, which frequently includes a plan for disrupting incumbents. The flip side is that mature market leaders need to defend their business. There are many ways that a company can defend, or in the case of regulatory moats, enshrine its position. I found this focus on productivity to be a good starting point. It's both a litmus test for defensibility and a structured gateway to more market specific analysis. Let's look at Alana on Warpcast. I think, is there, what was the thing? Okay, let's see. Let's see if we can figure this out. Alana. D. Levin. Okay. And then maybe let's go for recherche avancée and Alana D. Levin and the minimum number of j'aime cherche. Whoa. 100. Interesting. Okay. All hacking on forecaster frames. Variant fun. Alana. Okay. And okay. This is what we were looking for. Holy grail of ideas tried each cycle. DeFi super app, tokenized time, yield optimizer, composable credentials, information markets, crypto X, sports betting, and fan experiences. Holy grail of ideas tried each cycle. DeFi super app, tokenized time, yield optimizer, composable credentials, information markets, crypto exports, new essay. What's happening at Coinbase? Acquisitions okay, when was this written? This was written 24. Okay. Acquisitions, executive hires, and major leadership promotions often suggest there may be more at work than meets the eye. So when Coinbase recently announced that Jesse Pollak, the internal leader for Base, Coinbase's layer 2 blockchain, had been promoted to also lead Coinbase Wallet and join the Coinbase executive team, it struck me as meaningful. The broader picture suggests Coinbase may be reorganizing around a newly defined set of internal divisions, incumbent business lines, specifically Coinbase's exchange and institutional services, on-chain business opportunities spearheaded by Jesse Pollak, payments and commerce enabled by the Coinbase developer platform. All three are growth opportunities for Coinbase, but the first is really their bread and butter, while the latter two are more emergent on-chain business opportunities and payments and commerce. If the move is successful, it feels like the type of moment we'll hear Brian Armstrong mention in talks a few years from now, similar to how Brian Chesky talks about Airbnb's organizational restructuring during COVID. Here's how I'm thinking about the different segments. Interesting. What credit card networks can teach us about stablecoin opportunities? This is actually interesting. Okay. Consumer authorizes a flow of stablecoin payments straight. Consumer straight away pays to the merchant, but what happens in credit cards? Authorizes transaction. Consumers, financial institution, AUSD issuer sends AUSD stablecoin orchestration, receives FUSD. Merchants, financial institution, FUSD issuer deposits payment into merchant's account. Interesting. I think we are headed toward a world where every financial institution will issue their own stablecoin. We are starting to see hints of it already. PayPal has PYUSG. Revolut just yesterday announced they will issue stablecoin in Q1 25. Every financial institution will issue their own stable coin. And it makes sense, stable coins give institutions the ability to electronify their dollar deposits and generate yield in more ways. Tether made headlines with their 5.2 billion profit in H1 of this year. It's reasonable to believe any company that custodies dollars will see that figure and want a piece of the action. Yet while all stablecoins should feel like a dollar, the reality is that each issuer treats a dollar differently. These differences could stem from distinct issuance and redemption processes, variation in the reserve composition, separate regulatory regimes, and more. Where have we seen a version of this before? Credit cards. Both networks move money, both deal with not quite fungible assets that proxy dollars. Each network's stakeholders look similar. The value chain and flow of money looks analogous. So if the analogy is even directionally correct, what can the evolution of card networks tell us about where there might be opportunities in stablecoins? Check out the full piece to find out. Very interesting. Coinbase has had the best crypto ads I've seen so far, especially the update the system one shows a problem with the way things work, shows how they fix it, no fluff, keep it simple, doesn't randomly bring in other unrelated concepts. Builder Energy is clearly back. Quick recap of the Frames hackathon: 50 people hacking in person. ETH call with a super ETH call. Okay, horse facts. With a super helpful Frames demo, a bunch of awesome frames built from inception to event in 48 hours, approx 1k pizzas from base, not actually, but close. Sharing some of my favorite frames so far, a reminder that all the open bounties from ours, Zora base, and more can be found on Bounty Caster. 3 years ago, Twitter can really change your life. Hey Alana, checked out your writing and was impressed. When Web3 full time, I imagine BCG isn't doing a whole lot in the space. We have roles open at Variant in the portfolio. 3 categories seem to be dominating crypto VC mindshare deal flow right now: crypto, XAI, financialized, social, stable coins. Three categories seem to be dominating crypto VC mindshare deal flow right now, 27 Jan. Crypto, XAI, financialized, social, stable coins. Right, this makes sense. These are all the top ones. On DeFi super apps and the bottlenecks TLDR, it's not just UI. DeFi super apps enable users to easily trade and earn using on-chain protocols. We have seen a bunch of these projects over the past few months. It seems like low-hanging fruit. The infra is better than it's ever been. Embedded wallets make self-custody easy. Transaction fees are cheap, etc., etc. But I'm not sure any of those were really the bottlenecks. You've seen a bunch of these projects over the past few months. It seems like low-hanging fruit. The infra is better than it's ever been. Embedded wallets make self-custody easy. Transaction fees are cheaper. In my opinion, the core question is, who is the wedge audience? Is it new crypto users, moderately on-chain crypto natives, DeFi degens? Understanding the blockers for each is critical. The more the blockers between segments overlap, the more winning one group provides a wedge into the next. New crypto users. It's possible for a DeFi app to go mainstream, especially if the experience feels on par with centralized services. Coinbase has hit number 1 in the App Store. If a DeFi app replicates the experience, there's no reason to believe it can achieve similar success. So part of the challenge is UI, but it's not the only thing. Other key things to solve for include distribution, frictionless onboarding, clear value proposition. This makes sense. Like, new crypto users, they just want an extremely simple, if the value proposition, the clear value proposition, example yield, is that you can make a lot more money than what you would make if you were investing in traditional investments, people will be down, but then the user experience has to be extremely easy, moderately, extremely user friendly. Moderately on-chain crypto natives. Think Coinbase users who interact occasionally with on-chain protocols. They might split their staking between Coinbase and on-chain infra. Some fraction might use lending protocols. Key things to solve are Safety, ease of access management, double clicking on ease. The more that price volatility impacts the activity, the more it matters. On chain staking is largely set and forget because there isn't a volatility component, whereas one might prefer to check lending positions more frequently. Key things to solve are safety, ease of access management. DeFi degens, think folks who are looping their money 10x, have dozens of wallets set up to farm, and may have built proprietary trading setups. Key things to solve are yield optimization, holistic portfolio management, customization, third party integrations. My TLDR is that there isn't one right user segment to start with. They can all they can all be huge opportunities. DeFi degens might offer really high value per user. Winning the masses might have lower ARPU, but make up for it in the number of users. What matters is which blockers a team feels they can best solve. Luckily, the infra is now good enough for teams to go after any of these segments. The key is picking one and not trying to be a catch all at the outset. Interesting. That's very specific to the DeFi super app. We're in the app phase of the app infra cycle. Forecast to just release frames, the biggest composability innovation crypto's ever seen. Well, let's just say in a while. If you're based in NYC, I was going to say NFC, come hack on frames this weekend. Will provide the space plus the coffee. Distribution is all that matters. These are my favorite example of founders got their products into the hands of users. Twitter and South by Southwest. By 2007, Twitter had started to pick up early momentum in the Bay Area, but it really hit its stride during SXSW. Team put a flat screen in the main conference hallway where folks congregated between talks. It had a live Twitter feed driving tons of signups and generating buzz both at the conference plus beyond. Blendtec and Will It Blend. In the mid 2000s, Blendtec founder Tom Dixon wanted to show folks the quality of Blendtec's blenders. Dixon started a video series called Will It Blend, where he would put unlikely items to the test. The videos went viral, the show won awards, and Blendtec sales boomed. Dave Portnoy and Barstool. Okay, that's a good one. Blendtec. You made a show out of it, you made a organic content out of it. Dave Portnoy and Barstool. Portnoy would stand on Boston Street corners and subway platforms handing out copies of its sports blog Barstool. That's hustle. It took 4 years before they launched a digital version and 6 before it expanded beyond Boston. Today it's a juggernaut. Whoa. Whoa. Michelin tires and Michelin restaurant guide. Michelin started out selling car tires, but it had a problem. People weren't driving that much and thus didn't go through tires very quickly. So Michelin created a reason for folks to drive more, a ranking known as the Michelin Guide of excellent restaurants to visit. Today, we recognize Michelin both for its Michelin tire, man, and its Michelin star restaurants. PayPal, eBay checkouts, and referral links. PayPal used two big levers to grow. eBay. PayPal realized they could insert the logo into eBay's checkout flow real estate that drove user awareness. When eBay tried to demote PayPal's spot, eBay's own users complained and helped protect its position. Wow. Wow. Referral links. Each user got $10 for referring another that signed up. PayPal met users where they were, eBay auctions, and then leveraged those users to help drive more account signups. Dollar Shave Club. Actually, this one. Leverage those users to help drive even more account signups. Interesting. Dollar Shave Club. In 2012, Dollar Shave Club went viral with a YouTube video called Our Blades Are Fucking Great. It was short, sweet, produced in-house, cost less than $5K to make, and got Dollar Shave Club on the map. The company received over 12K orders in the first 48 hours and was off to the races. Blackbird and Fly Tokens. Blackbird is a loyalty program for the restaurant industry. When diners check in at their favorite Blackbird powered restaurants, this totally seems like, okay, Blackbird is a portfolio company because you got $Fly, you got the tweet link. When diners check in at their favorite Blackbird powered restaurants, they earn in-app currency called Fly, which are redeemable for rewards, and as of today, a new way to pay the bill. A new way to pay the bill. Right, right. So in Blackbird, you can basically just pay the bill and leave. You don't have to wait for the staff to come to you and go through the entire process. I would imagine that the ability to get rewarded for doing something people love to do anyway, dining out has driven a strong number of signups. Showing up in person, shared economics, virality, and just in products. I'm always stoked whenever I meet a company taking a novel approach to distribution for consumer products. Distribution isn't everything, it's the only thing. For consumer products, it's the only thing. This is probably the highest velocity of quality early stage deals I have seen since becoming a VC. Tons of activity from the forecaster community, payment plays, new deepen networks, interesting physical digital products, and more. Most of the takes on Stripe Bridge deal feel off the mark. My take, yes, it's exciting, but 1 billion ultimately undersells what Bridge could have become. It doesn't validate broader crypto M&A appetite. We have known stable coins are a big deal. That doesn't mean we'll see large acquisitions in other crypto categories. We probably will see more interest in payment M&A, specifically Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and others will likely be on the hunt. The use of NFC chips slash crypto is still drastically underexplored. They can create digital records of physical items, nudge in person behavior, and more. Coinbase has 8 business lines that are each on track to generate 9 figures in revenue this year. 9 if you count corporate interest and income. 4 layers in the Farcaster stack: on chain, OP slash ETH mainnet, off chain, Farcaster protocol, F names, okay, on chain, ENS storage, off chain, F names, clients, Warcast, Supercast, headless, bounty, caster, frames. Headless feels like the biggest unlock. One of the biggest life hacks is to message people when you like something they posted or created. It's generally fun, plus I met so many cool people by just telling them I like their stuff. Agent oracles. If agents start interacting with each other, especially relying on other agents for information or data feeds, we are already starting to see categories of info agents emerge. Verifying the legitimacy of that info will be important. The NFT MEV landscape. How the NFT market structure differs from fungible tokens. Types of NFT MEV today. MEV unique to NFTs, opportunities for infra. Okay. How to build a strong reputation, grow your network, and increase opportunities. 90s writing, 2000s writing, 2010s writing, 2020s writing. Ooh. How to build a strong reputation, grow your network, and increase opportunities. NFTs may actually make a lot of sense for the restaurant industry. Thread. And maybe that's what Blackbird is doing. A thread on Rweave, data comparisons and things I find interesting. A thread on Helium, data comparisons and things I find interesting. Crypto feels contrarian again. A thread on the graph. This is pretty cool. Just like diving deep into companies. A thread on Zcash, data comparisons and things I find interesting. NFTs could make a lot of sense as affiliate links. Thesis remains intact. More efficient global payment rails that democratize access to capital is good. The ability to prove, verify ownership is good. Expanding the set of what is ownable, plus letting people choose whether they value that ownership is good. What are things you can do with tokens? Some ideas: secure networks such as via staking, bootstrap, supply side of networks, Helium, demo network. Demo, yes, helps drivers get the most from their car. Create a tangible incentive for coordination among dispersed parties. Example, what we see with many DAOs, decentralized distribute governance. Fund public goods. Example, what optimism is doing. Incentivize positive externalities within an ecosystem. Would love to talk to anyone experimenting with this. Think it's different than directly funding public goods. Reward participants for contributions to a network. Coordinate and create insurance pools. Form digitally native units of account, internet money. Track and build on-chain reputation. Create new digital identities. Example, NFT will likely see this expands as NFT info such as sign in with NFTs builds out. Give users a share of ownership in the network with the interpretation of ownership and open frontier. Spencer Noon. This is what great token design looks like. Okay. New essay, designing governance tokens. I laid out a 3-step framework for teams to think through their governance token design. At the crux of the design, should governance tokens be bought or earned? Well, it depends. A useful mindset shift from what does it solve to what does it enable. Example, smartphones made calls incrementally better than flip phones. A slight solution. Smartphones enabled an entirely new set of companies like Uber, Venmo, and more. Ce n'est pas disponible. Pourquoi? Feels underrated how much off-chain labs Arbitrum has shipped in the past 3-4 months alone. Arbitrum Orbit Bold Dispute Protocol stylus partnership with XAI to continue building out app layer use cases integration with Espresso. Espresso. I have a friend who works at Espresso in what I believe is the first major L2 to take concrete action implementation decentralized at sequencer. I'm thrilled to announce I was joined Variant Fund as an investment partner. I'll be working alongside Jesse, Legion, Spencer Noon. Oh, Spencer Noon. The rest of the team and our incredible portfolio companies. My journey into crypto was a bit serendipitous. It started by writing online and posting to this very website, which is how I found the crypto community. The more involved I became, the more I wrote. The more I wrote, the more engaged I became. I was hooked. During that time, I also started at BCG. I spent weekdays looking at mature, steady businesses juxtaposed with weekends and often early mornings. Studying crypto was more nascent, innovative models. The connections that emerged were unexpected but invaluable. For instance, industrial distributors might provide one mental model of what L2 value accrual looks like. A working mental model for L2s as distributors. A thread on RV was largely inspired by diligence on the stickiness of mainframes and data storage. A thread on RV, data comparisons, and things I find interesting. 694 likes. RV is a decentralized data storage protocol. Storage is permanent and the protocol employs a pay once, store forever model. The ecosystem has been growing massively from 35 applications built using RV storage to 65. 3 months later. Interesting. I've written about many of these topics on my blog Back of the Envelope, but throughout the time it became clear that I wanted to work in crypto. The question was just how and when. I have long known of Variant as an exceptional VC firm. I met Jesse a few months ago through Twitter actually, and have spent the past few months getting to better know him and the team. What struck me most is their consistently thoughtful and resourceful approach to supporting founders. Jesse helping pioneering UGP, Lee's masterful storytelling of founders' journey, Spencer's R network, distributed research for distributed networks, crypto's go-to platform for on-chain analytics, data-driven deep dives, direct hosting discussions on token economics, Meda, product ad Uniswap, previously Variant Fund, Pseudo Theos, basically providing a public good by sharing his knowledge on L1 L2 designs. Jeff Hamilton using his extensive finance experience to push DeFi forward. Sonofali Ali, highlighting founders' voices with Fem3 voices, and so much more. The brilliant team as true partners to the projects they invest in, and I can't wait to get started. It's interesting that most of these team members have left the company. Uniswap. Spencer is still there, I'm guessing. True partners are very in my focus. Spencer known. Yeah, he's also left. Okay. Advarian Legion has left. My focus will be on infrastructure, identifying, investing in, and supporting founders building system architecture designed to shape the future of how we engage. In particular, I'm excited about token design, scaling solutions, normal governance structures, support for public goods, and privacy mechanics. If you're working on anything within these realms or even just want to chat about these topics, please reach out. Okay, we go back to the Substack. Actually, we're already over here. Okay, let's go to the top ones. Reflections on Street of Crypto. Q to 24. What's happening at Coinbase? Is there any hit from 25? No. Okay. How to build a pitch deck. Read value in the Meg Nuggets. Oh yeah, the Meg Nuggets example is beautiful. Stablecoin opportunities. What's happening at finding and eliciting valuable information is one of the most useful skills someone can develop. Okay. Wow. How to find information. Finding and eliciting valuable information is one of the most useful skills someone can develop. This is an ongoing list of proxies and heuristics that I've found helpful to date. If someone is displaying behavior that so strongly goes against the grain of how they typically act, it's worth digging deeper. There's probably some important factor driving that abnormality that's important to identify and understand. Give people something to react to. This is especially helpful in scenarios where someone is split and or indifferent to a decision. Picking a side of the decision and committing to defending it for the sake of discussion helps propel the process forward. It elicits the best arguments both for and against a decision. Presenting an I could go either way viewpoint is harder to debate and interrogate. One way to spot talent is to pay attention to who within an organization peers are gravitating towards when they need help. If a set of peers are consistently asking someone for help, it reveals that they not only trust and respect that person, but also that they view them as knowledgeable and collaborative. If you put an idea out into the world and many people call it stupid or silly, but someone with deep category knowledge thinks it's interesting, there's probably something there. This is a tactical way of spotting opportunities that fit the good ideas that sound like bad ideas. Adage. Be extra thoughtful, patient if someone is communicating in a non-native language. It may be more challenging for them to fully communicate the nuance of their ideas. There's a scene from the show Modern Family where Sophia's character, who is a native Spanish speaker and generally seen as unserious by other characters, shouts in frustration, "If only you all knew how smart I am in Spanish." I think about that scene legitimately every week.
Did you say something so that Manny could switch to French?
I did.
You knew that I wanted him to learn Spanish.
I also know you can't force a kid to be something that he's not. That's why I have a picture of Mitchell and his prom date shaking hands.
It would be nice for someone to care what I think for a change.
You should also know that I hired a new swimming instructor, but don't worry, she's got the same broad shoulders plus a mustache.
So all this is because you're jealous? I can't believe that you're being so what is the word? Selfish, pig-headed.
Really?
Her words, not mine. Do you know how frustrating it is to have to translate everything in my head before I say it? To have people laugh in my face because I'm struggling to find the words? You should try talking in my shoes from 1 mile.
I think you meant.
I know what I meant to mean. Do you even know how smart I am in Spanish? Of course you don't. For once, it would be nice to speak to someone in my own language in my own home. Whatever the Spanish word is for women, am I right?
Really cool. Be extra thoughtful, patient if someone is communicating in a non-native language. It may be more challenging for them to fully communicate the nuance of their ideas. So, a scene from the show Modern Family where Sophia's character who is a native Spanish speaker and generally seen as unserious by other characters shouts in frustration. If only you if only you all knew how smart I am in Spanish. I think about that scene legitimately every week. When trying to solicit a broad set of opinions from a team, try having the junior folks start. It's easier to forward a viewpoint that may diverge from your superiors if you don't yet know your boss's perspective. When trying to solicit a broad set of opinions from a team, try having the junior folks start. It's easier to forward a viewpoint that may diverge from your superiors if you don't yet know your boss's perspective. That is very interesting. Always try inversion. Yes, Charlie Munger. A good question to ask is what would cause failure? In what ways would we be wrong? A lot of information is more readily available than many may realize. You just have to ask. For example, say you want to build a consumer product, do an audit of where you spend money and time each month. Literally look at your credit card bill and breakdown of screen time, then ask your friends, then ask their friends, then ask yourself where you and they would be willing to spend more money and time if given the right product or opportunity. It's powerful when someone voluntarily admits that they were wrong about something, it's 10x more powerful when they immediately follow that up with, here's what I learned. You can learn from others' success what to do right, but rarely their failures. You will never know the full extent of what went awry. Pay attention. If someone refuses to give an opinion because they claim they are not knowledgeable about the subject, these people aren't afraid to say, I don't know. It means that when they do have an opinion about something, they're probably quite well informed and it's worth paying attention to. Pay attention if someone refuses to give an opinion because they claim they are not knowledgeable about the subject. It means that when they do have an opinion about something, they are probably quite well informed and it's worth paying attention to. Actively solicit the perspective of whomever is closest to the job being done, regardless of their rank. They probably have opinions on how something should be done, but may not normally have a forum to voice their opinions. Very little beats the quality of learning while in person. Same is true for seeing the data points live. A good example is in The Big Short. In the movie, Barry and his colleagues visited some new housing development sites. Many of the homes were either empty or occupied by people who couldn't sustainably afford them. It made clear there was a bubble waiting to pop. Actively verify probe data. If this data seems to conflict with reality, the data is probably wrong. An example, in the early days of Amazon, one of the S team gave Bezos a report that stated Amazon's customer service was great and took under a minute to get a response from an agent, but customers were still complaining. So in the meeting, Bezos called customer service live. It took over 10 minutes to get an agent on the phone. The data was wrong. Actively verify probe data. If the data seems to conflict with reality, data is probably wrong. Develop a set of questions to ask yourself daily. These are mine. Develop a set of questions to ask yourself daily. These are mine. Questions I ask myself daily. Wow. What are the pain points in my life? I think about this all the time. If I find something annoying or painful, there's a chance others do too. That means there's an opportunity to fix it. If a lot of people find something annoying, there's probably a big opportunity to fix it. Noticing pain points and figuring out how to fix them is an easy way to identify a product or service people may want. Why does something cost what it does? Why is one cup of coffee $3 versus another $5? Why is the onion at the grocery store 70 cents? Why is the tea in Boston $2.40 per ride? I found this exercise has really expanded my thinking, pushing me to consider input costs, transport expenses, inventories, demand dynamics, and durability, to name a few. Why am I interested in the things that I find interesting? I've come to grips with the fact that there's little chance I've ever fully answered this. When am I fine with something being inconvenient? I've written before about how I think people will always want convenience. So far, the only time I've seen people consistently forego convenience is for an experience. Example, going to a concert versus watching a music video. I wonder if there are other examples. To date, I haven't really found any. So far, the only time I've seen People consistently forego convenience is for an experience. Going to a concert, watching a music video. What am I going to write about next? I sit on most ideas for 3 months before I write them. I have been thinking about this piece since I turned 23 in January. Whoa. Which means 3 years later, she's 26 right now. Whoa. Alana is super smart, super young. Wow. Okay. Really cool. Really cool. I sit on most ideas for 3 months before I write them. I've been thinking about this piece since I turned 23 in January, where when I spent some time reflecting on the prior year, as I bet many do around their birthdays, asking myself what I should write about next is less a prompt for publishing and more a prompt for going out and learning something new. Wow. Wow. Okay. That is really cool. Okay, so Alana worked at. Let's see if we have any popular LinkedIn posts as well. Alana Levin, investment partner at Variant, the Wharton School. Okay. Investment partner, associate, summer associate, teaching assistant, student honors intern. Really cool. Really cool. Okay. Let's go back to back of the envelope. Look at the top ones and reflections on the state of crypto. Every 6 months or so, I write an internal reflection on the state of crypto and where I think we are headed. I decided it worthwhile to publish my most recent one for public consumption. The commentary is broken up into 3 sections: what's working, other things that have happened or are happening, and what new things I'm looking forward to. I try to ground much of the analysis in data, but admittedly let my opinions slip through in brief pockets. Hopefully it's an interesting read. If the reception is positive or the feedback is productive, I'll consider sharing more of these internal reflections in the future. Working today. The good news is that there are a number of things working and working in serious ways. The growth of these, many of which I would call big ideas, in that they can meaningfully change how the status quo operates, should create new opportunities as second order effects of their success. For clarity, I use the term what's working to refer to projects or trends that show signs of sustainable product market fit, are expanding the size of the crypto market, or both. So, what seems to be working on or growing today, I have selected a non exhaustive list of 10 things I find are demonstrating notable signs of working. Stablecoins, Bitcoin as an alternative asset, forecaster, early but growing network, asset creation, community created and trained AI models, Solana, Ethereum, Zora, Coinbase, on-chain exchange, bonus, Blackbird. Stablecoins. On-chain stablecoin supplies have seen 25 billion in net supply inflows year to date. 24. Okay. Overall, inflows have been positive since November 23. Permissionless global access to the US dollar continues to enjoy strong market fit. Permissionless global access to the US dollar continues to enjoy strong market fit. Wow. Bitcoin as an alternative asset. Just under a dozen Bitcoin spot ETFs were approved in January. As of early June, over 80 billion worth of value sits in Bitcoin spot ETFs. I follow Blockworks and the blocks trackers for data. Gold seems a strong analog for understanding institutional allocation into Bitcoin, regardless of whether you think the asset represents an inflation hedge. It is an alternative to traditional equities that enjoys some level of social consensus around its value. One could argue that Bitcoin is much better than gold in that it can be more easily transferred. There is a knowable supply cap, and the asset is seeing adoption on both some corporations and countries' balance sheets, and therefore may exceed gold's market cap someday. In the private markets, Q1 was characterized by an influx of projects looking to extend the utility of Bitcoin. This ranged from many Bitcoin smart contract layers to on-chain lending protocols to exploring ways Bitcoin's economic security budget can be leveraged to help secure other chains. My guess is that any fruits of these developments will probably be born in H2 of this year. Farcaster. Social network built on open protocol Rails started to enjoy meaningful growth. Inflection point occurred in late January around the launch of Frames. Frames are mini app-like components that people can share, engage directly. Asset creation. Number of tokens created continues to go up. One way to track this trend is by looking at the number of new tokens appearing on DEX. Activity appears to be largely driven by asset creation on Base and Solana. On Solana in particular, the past few weeks have seen over 10k new tokens created each day. Many of these new assets are in the form of meme coins, tokenized memes. I would not describe myself as active in the meme coin space, but I do recognize that there is a very real and engaged group of users who have demonstrated an eagerness to participate. Notably, the emergence of these new assets has led to some unanticipated but productive byproducts in the broader ecosystem. For instance, we're seeing greater experimentation with new tools like Solana's token extension. A token called Burn leveraged Solana's new token extension to innovate on token economics. If someone sold their tokens, 5% of that trade was destroyed as a reallocation mechanism to remaining holders. Whoa. Forcing function for wallets to adopt the token extension standards, which are productive in that they can enable complex payment splits, confidential transfers, and more. Without Burn, who knows how long adoption of token extensions would have taken. If someone sold their tokens, 5% of their trade was destroyed. Yeah, I don't really understand the entire mechanism over there, but interesting. Overall, my main takeaway is that asset creation seems like a trend with tailwinds. Regardless of how you feel about these assets, owning the issuance and exchange continue to be two great places to sit in the flow of value. Community created and trained AI models. It seems very clear we are headed for a world of abundant access to LLMs with low cost of creation and many options to choose from in the world. Where does value accrue? Let's ask Grok about this. Are we headed to a world with abundant access to LLMs? The tech is already widespread with models like me available on multiple platforms. Open source projects and APIs are popping up everywhere, and competition's driving costs down. Usage limits exist, but free tiers and subscriptions are making LLMs accessible to more people daily. It's not perfect yet. Think rural connectivity or compute bottlenecks, but the trajectory is clear. LLMs are becoming as common as smartphones. Really cool. Okay. I hold the view that value accrues to scarce resources. So in a world with abundant compute, abundant content, and abundant tooling, the question becomes what's scarce? One answer is taste and attention. The hard part is that taste and attention are fairly intangible resources. Even when we can measure them, screen time acts as a measure of attention. It's hard to put a dollar value on the metric. We're starting to see pockets of where crypto rails help by tightly coupling financial rails with taste and attention-based activities, specifically community-created and trained AI models with some sort of productive output, such as a good or service example, artwork or film IP that can be sold or licensed, offer the ability to reward participants. For models with subjective outputs, the community participants act as tastemakers by training the model on their cultural preferences. There's a strong incentive to select for good taste. The more tasteful the output, the more it should sell for. This is very interesting. I think this is where did we read this? But I think we found this through one of our researches, which was one of a live stream, which was there's a DAO where every single day they are producing artwork, AI generated artwork, and then the entire community votes for the top 5 artwork that should go out to sell, and then if they sell, the DAO gets treasury funds. So there's a lot of incentive in making sure that the entire community is aligned on having the best taste and creating the high and being a tastemaker. Wow. We're starting to see a few of these emerge in a way that is real and working. Boto is my favorite example. It's an autonomous artist where Boto token holders have the ability to help train the model each week. Art is good and getting better, proxied by the increasing prices of the Boto pieces sold at its weekly auction. In tandem, the network of owner participants has also continued to grow. I think we'll start to see more community created and trained AI models, especially as the known and working instances like Borrow continue to grow in prominence. Some businesses are tackling the challenge of attribution top down via litigation, data licensing agreements, or both. If we assume that the status quo represents less than 1% of the model based output that will exist, say 5 years from now, it's clear there's room for other attempts at tackling attribution and distributing value to contributions. Crypto rails offer a uniquely valuable solution. Crypto strengthens both economic and creative attribution meaningfully. It also allows for anyone anywhere to participate. In an old blog, Chris Dixon muses, there's a famous remark: the future is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed. Wow. 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 The age of abundance is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed. Wow. Wow. An obvious follow up question is, if the future is already here, where can I find it? Community created. Wow. Wow. This is very similar to the quote that we have. Wow. Community created and trained models are one area where we have some small but growing projects that very much point the way to a much bigger future. Solana. Daily active addresses interacting with Solana are 2 to 3x higher than this time last year, and roughly in line with the highest periods of activity in the 21 cycle. The number of monthly active addresses is up 3 to 4x in the same time frame, hitting a new all-time high in May 24. The network has also started generating meaningful fee revenue, beginning to prove the hypothesis that Solana's low fees will make up for it in greater user activity volume. The takeaway: Solana's trajectory is indicative of something that is working and working in a meaningful way. Solana is here to stay. Ethereum. Enjoy notable progress. There are two ways to frame this growth: by focusing on Ethereum itself and by looking at the Ethereum system of chains inclusive of Ethereum roadmaps as a whole. Ethereum itself has seen notable growth in monthly active addresses. The trading 30-day average has increased by 30% YTD and is just 10% off its peak. Looking at the Ethereum ecosystem more holistically also shows significant growth signs. I've aggregated the daily active addresses from 5 of the top Ethereum-based chains in the chart below. The 5 were in part selected for their rich ecosystems of apps and developers building on top. The takeaway: Ethereum has been and continues to be one of the most important ecosystems in crypto. Zora. Zora chain, also known as Zora Network, has been live for approximately 1 year. Over the time, the network has continued to find its footing. Weekly active users are up 60%, surpassed new high of 250K. Wow. The chain has also enjoyed 34% profit margin, meaning that Zora keeps about a third of the ETH that users spend on transaction fees. Polygon. Okay, Polygon is the biggest one. Ethereum is second. Arbitrum is increasing. Base is not that big. And optimism is optimism is optimism. Whoa. How do I go back? Okay. Zora chain helps validate the notion that applications with sufficient distribution can start to vertically integrate with other parts of the stack, block space, to unlock more attractive economics. Coinbase has also had a strong start to the year. It was listed as the custodian for 8 of the 11 Bitcoin spot ETFs. The exchange business has also continued to make strides, hitting a high of 157 billion in exchange volume, a number it hadn't achieved since November 21. Transaction fees still count for a large portion of Coinbase's revenue. In Q1, the platform generated over 1 billion trading fees, approximately 2/3 of its quarterly revenue, but just as notably, Coinbase has continued to diversify its revenue streams beyond transaction-based fees. Coinbase One, Coinbase's membership suite, surpassed 400K subscribers. Base, Coinbase, this is a layer 2 protocol, is generating millions in on-chain fees every month. On-chain exchanges. Across major Ethereum chains, the number of unique Uniswap users approximately doubled from 6 months ago. One definition of a successful protocol is one in which Successful businesses can be built on top. We are seeing that with on chain exchanges exemplified by Uniswap Labs' growth in revenue generated by its interface. The 7-day moving average of volumes facilitated by Uniswap also recently surpassed that of Coinbase. Importantly, it's not just in Ethereum where we are seeing growth of on chain exchanges. Within Solana, Orca, and Radium, two of the leading dexes, have also seen notable growth. Blackbird. Other things that happen: the growth of social fi apps, proliferation of new chain launches, integrated versus modular chains, optimistic versus zero chain economics, brand community. A chain's culture and reputation can serve as an attractive halo for builders. It may bolster the perception that developers will receive more help from the community or the developers when building in the ecosystem. It could provide reputational cover in the eyes of certain consumers. No one gets in trouble for picking a MacBook or something like that. And or the value that a chain's community espouses could simply align with a developer's own ideology. Mature chains have elements of all three. Take two that are highlighted above as working. Burning a portion of transaction fees as a redistribution mechanism to ETH holders. Grew a strong developer community and ethos around its tech. Solana popularized the integrated blockchain, was the first to make low fees commercially viable. Verification that someone is human. Next wave of chain differentiators will stem from external integrations. It's really broad design space and it's an area I'm excited to explore more deeply. Looking ahead, my main takeaway is that we are still largely talking about the things we were talking about 6 to 12 months ago, but with more maturation and what's working front. As these mature, many should and will turn into platforms that create opportunities as a byproduct of their success. Growth causes growing pains, and those pains create room for third parties to provide solutions. Anticipating growth in these major platforms can also provide a foundation for thinking about where we are going. The things I'm paying the most attention to are new forms of distribution and new building blocks. New building blocks. Reservoirs Relay Protocol helps eliminate the user experience of bridging funds between chains, making a one-click checkout experience on-chain finally feel possible. World ID continues to grow and will hopefully provide a way to authenticate between humans and agents. I occasionally get frustrated when I read something that comes across more as abstract hope than reality. So I attempt to avoid that here with a concrete example. Take modern advertising, a multi-billion-dollar market that touches almost every business. My guess is it's racked with inefficiencies despite decades worth of improvements in attribution and targeting. Now imagine instead what advertisements might look like for Farcaster. Send coupons directly to the target customer wallet because every account has an associate wallet. Coupons might be based on some mention of a similar product in a post the consumer created or a post that the user liked. The business can operate with the confidence that data will remain open and accessible forever, no concern about APIs being shut off or prices being jacked up, which allows it to then invest in refining the effectiveness of this distribution channel. The budget is only spent if the consumer converts to a sale. The coupon is used. It seems like a win for both businesses and consumers, uniquely enabled by open social graphs, embedded payment rails, and verifiable digital identities. Wow, this makes sense. So you're straight away sending coupons based on their on-chain activity, and that's an incentive. That's a great incentive. Wow. So you're basically saying no need to do advertisement. You are literally just like, okay. So advertisement would change into highly transactional, where it's like, it'll move from manipulation to transaction. That's interesting. Either you are manipulating or you are transacting. Wow. Some new ideas, different forms of credentialing. Credentials, certifications, attestations are valuable resources to put on chain. The ability to timestamp issuance and verify the issuer both benefit from being up on a public ledger. One example of such credentials might be workplace verification. A receipt from an employer that someone worked at a company for a certain period. Within the crypto industry, I've seen a number of attempts at attestations. I think the key here will be identifying credentials that hold real economic value, like employment verification, and honing in on those markets. PDA, price differentiated assets. These are goods with real economic value but a wide divergence in willingness to pay among market participants. Restaurant reservations are a good example. An article recently went viral about the underground reservation market in NYC. Popular reservations are attacked by bots and resold on exclusive secondary markets for thousands of dollars. It seems to me that if one takes the viewpoint that such financialization is inevitable, making those assets as transparent and accessible as possible seems like a net positive for both diners and restaurants. Restaurants could more easily check the transfer history of the reservation, while more potential consumers could participate. Tokenizing reservations could even enable some sort of programmatic price cap or a revenue share back with the restaurant. This is just one example. This makes so much sense. This makes so much sense. You're just tokenizing reservations because you are like, okay, anyways, if people are doing this, which means they find our reservations important, and then we should be getting value out of it. Huh, tokenizing reservations. And especially for the premium Michelin restaurants that everybody wants to go to on a beautiful day when it's gonna be a sunset and it has great view, limited seats, the reservations will be high. And what if someone wants to transfer it? Big. Tokenizing reservations could even enable some sort of programmatic price cap or even revenue share back with the restaurant. This is just one example. There are many more markets where real assets with fundamental economic value are being mis or inefficiently priced because access to the markets is opaque or limited. New forms of token distribution. There are many opportunities to nudge people's existing behaviors with token rewards as a byproduct of activities they would already do anyway. Blackbird is the first and most notable example. Dining out was already a widespread activity, but the presence of Blackbird rewards has likely changed where and how frequently some users choose to dine. This could be applied more broadly in areas where people already spent time and money but have little consistency or allegiance in their consumption activities. In particular, I would look for categories where merchants could benefit from some sort of consortium or co-op effect in terms of greater data insight into consumer behavior across merchants. Whether there are uniquely good wine house for these ideas is admittedly an open question. They mostly strike me as good ideas that have been good ideas for a while but have not yet been fully explored. Concluding thoughts. This reflection represents many, but importantly, not all of the things I think have happened in crypto recently. Some areas it doesn't touch on, but maybe could have include the growth in permanent storage solutions, the maturation of DeFi protocols into true financial platforms, and Telegram's impressive push with TON. Wow. Okay, really cool. That's a stream.